All right, next up will be Elise Spontarelli. She's going to talk about grant funding for Makerspaces. Let me pull her slides up here.
Right. Hello, my name's Elise. I'm the founder and director at a community makerspace in Lynchburg, Virginia. We're about 3 years old, and over the past 3 years, grant funding has been really important in how we've grown our operations and being sustainable. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about that. So why grants? You can think about grants as getting one big chunk of money from one person or one organization instead of lots of little pieces of income, whether that's membership or t-shirt sales or donations. And not saying that you shouldn't do those things, but it can be beneficial sometimes to focus on one main funder. So if you're doing projects that are educational, innovative, there's a picture that's not there, working with youth or working with entrepreneurs, there's a good chance that there's a grant out there that help you with funding. So when you're looking for grants, start local. Go and speak to your Rotary Club. Get out there and get in front of people and talk to people and make those connections within your community. You can look at your education foundation, your community foundations, and local stores that will have foundations as well. There's a lot of online directories, and these can be helpful for when you know you have a program and you need a funder to match it. So if you're doing STEM education or if you're doing an entrepreneurship program, then you can look at these directories and they can help you find a matching funder that's maybe not local. Once you have a little bit of experience, then you can go bigger. So American Honda Foundation starts at $20,000 and NSF grants can be huge. But my next slide is a warning not to go too big because the reporting on this can be really crippling for a small organization. You want to make sure that you have the infrastructure in place. Sometimes it's a staff member just to organize and keep track of that one grant if you go for a really large grant. So definitely start local and start small with something that is going to be sustainable. So things that we've had success funding through grants are things like capital, educational programs, community outreach. So that's things like maker fairs or open houses, and projects that focus on inclusivity. So getting groups that are not traditionally in maker fields into our space. When you are looking for grants, make sure you read the request for proposal. Remember that granting organizations, they want to give money to good causes. So your job is just to tell them why you are a good cause. So use the language that they're using. Make sure that the grant is a right fit for the program that you're looking for funding. We keep a wish list of tools and programs that we want funded, and then when we learn about a funder, we match them up, and then we put it on a calendar. So we know when we need to be applying for grants for different equipment, different programs, that sort of thing. Again, make sure you ask within your means. Don't go for a grant that's half of your operating budget because you're unlikely to get that grant, and also it's going to be more than you can support at that time. So think about, what your budget is and what you have the capacity for. This is a buffer slide that's just pictures of our makerspace so that I can breathe for a minute. And we all like to see each other's faces, right? So those are some of our spaces. So when you're writing grants, you do need to be a nonprofit. So if your makerspace is not a nonprofit, it's not too late. You can still apply and become a nonprofit. You'll want to fill out the form 1023, go to the IRS. There is an EZ form, but you need to make less than $50,000 in gross receipts, not just this year, but for the next 3 years. So if you're going after funding, keep that in mind. Once you've found a funder, you can check them out on GuideStar. GuideStar.org will tell you all kinds of information about the funder, what their mission is. There's a link that says show me the 990s, and that will show you who they funded in the past, for how much, and you can know what kind of programs they want to fund. It's very, very helpful. Reuse your work. So once you have written down your demographics, and there's a lot of legwork that goes into the beginning and getting all the content of what you do onto paper, and you can reuse that for different grants, just sort of tweaking it depending on the program. Encourage site visits. So makerspaces are not something that most funders are familiar with. So get them out there to your space to see it, to see even if it looks like a mess to you, right? It's a creative mess, and let them see the things that go on there and why it's important to fund it. Be patient. This is our actual grant revenue. Starting in 2015, we had one $5,000 grant, and last year we had almost $40,000 in grants. And already this year we're at our 2017 number. So growth is possible. Just stay within your means, and you'll see more success as you go. To improve your chances, you can take classes. Network for Good has online webinars. not just on grant funding, but on all kinds of nonprofit, board management, things like that. And then also see if there's a local organization where you can go and do those classes in person. And when you do, collaborate with other people. So talk to other nonprofits and see what their needs are and how your makerspace can help. This is a little free pantry that we built for the local soup kitchen. We did one just with volunteer funds and then got $5,000 in funding from Home Depot and Kroger to build more of them for the city. And don't forget to keep making things. And also, last tip that I almost forgot is to write a press release when you get that grant. Make sure you're doing your marketing too. But yeah, thank you guys.